it helps me because she's recollecting hers easy. Uh, and then once I do that, let me make sure that we're actually in the record mode. Looks like we are. There we go. So good morning, everyone. This is Tuesday. Let's see, it's like the 16th of February. We are going to be spending our some time today and this week on Saturday in looking at grief, and not only its pain, which we're pretty familiar with. In fact, we're so familiar with pain, the pain of grief, that we run the other way, don't we? But Sharon tries to look in this chapter, which is chapter 4, in case you haven't looked at it yet. In chapter 4, she really tries to make the case, and I'm going to try to make it some more, that without the turning towards the realities of losses, of endings, of the natural pain in this human life that this life itself will invite, that you will stay anxious, you will stay fearful, you will stay running from the monster of impermanence, of death, of grief, of loss, in a way that you cannot outrun. You cannot outrun it. And consequently, stay fearful, stay anxious, stay distressed, and stay in the cloak or the myth of security, of constancy, of if I just turtle up, I call it sometimes, if I duck under, if I ostrich up, right, then I can be safe. And in fact, what we actually know is that is not the way. And in fact, that is the way to certain distress and anxieties. Does that make sense to everyone? Though it is in our brainstem's habit to try to turn away from the unpleasant, to try to turn from the truth of impermanence, to try to turn away from these ideas of death, right? We are really an amazing culture in our denial, in our avoidance, in our turning away from death, that this is not the path. It cannot be the path to true presence, groundedness. It means, as Pema says, that we must, in our essential spiritual training and practice, turn towards the blade. And the blade is nothing special, as Joko would say. The blade is simply the truth of life. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary that happens to you, nothing out of order, and nothing out of the ordinary, just the truth of this human life for us all. And so we're going to see if we can't begin to practice turning towards the more difficult, the unpleasant, without the add-ons, Sharon says. Sharon, of course, not being the first, without the narrative, without the storylines, without the if only something, I would not have had to confront this truth. It is not true. That's likely one of the myths you're holding about life. If somehow I get it right, I can avoid the essential truth of impermanence, death, loss, and the pain, which is what we're going to talk about today, of those losses. So let's take a look, if we can, at The Well of Grief by David Whyte. To save time today, we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and read that. He just has one perspective that I thought was exceptional in this well of grief. And here's what David has to say. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, Can you get that imagery? Wow. We'll never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. I'm going to read it again. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. Stunning, right? A stunning description of what I was just talking about. Our avoidance, our shutdowns, our turning away, our looking distractions, looking everywhere else, rather than to feel into the truth of that cold, clear water, and the glimmering, the part that I think is so hopeful, of the coins that say, I have had the courage to turn towards this, and consequently, I have cultivated qualities of resilience, resourcefulness, a certain fearlessness, for being completely then not just turned towards death and grief or loss or change, but the willingness, the courage, the confidence, and then the skillfulness to turn towards all of life. All of life. We're no longer running. Let's see if we can practice with this a bit, and then we will have a conversation with the chapter 4 on grief as the path towards resilience. I'm going to check here just to make sure. Yes, we were going to do half of chapter 3 today, Leslie, and I looked at our schedule and saw that we were running out of time. And because I thought we would take an extra, maybe take an extra day with grief, I thought I could weave them together. And so that's my hope for today. Yes, I'm going to see if I can make that happen today, but thank you. Thank you for always pointing me in those right directions. So we have quite a lovely group here today. I'm going to check because my recording is yellow, which is making me a little nervous. I want to make sure we're going to capture this because I know there's several people who can't be here today. Not sure what that means. I'm not going to be worried about it. It says recording. I'm going to trust the internet on this one. So let's establish ourselves for sitting. In this particular practice, I'd like you to feel as stable and supported as you can. If you're not comfortable sitting on a cushion with your feet wrapped, then make sure that your feet are available, not in midair, like on a recliner, but established on a ground or another surface. And with just a breath or two, we begin to find our way home, don't we? Here we are once again, a whole new way of knowing this life by living right through the body, not thinking about, not planning the day, not reflecting on yesterday, not even bringing add-ons, narratives, opinions, or preferences to the present moment. Let's see if we can begin by just anchoring to our feet for a moment. And then the feet, the legs, and the hips. feeling the way that upper body draws itself into the cradle of the lower, joining us, unifying us, becoming whole. Remembering that there's no special way to breathe. And though we're going to be covering these challenging topics for many of us, because we don't like our anger, we don't like grief, see if we can't keep showing up just right here for this very breath. Feel the rise of the spine, the creation of space between the vertebrae, the way the chest, the heart, the shoulders, the head move upward. And letting it do so with some energy and inspiration. And then as we come back into the body, at the front of the body, let everything soften, not become flaccid, not weakened, but open, receptive, flexible. Moving through the face, letting the face relax, letting the throat be open, the shoulders lowered, the arms weighted, supports for you at your sides. We're going to come into the breathscape here, the chest, the belly, the diaphragm. And just practice for several breaths, touching into this part of the body, knowing this part of the body directly. We're going to practice leaving the narrative behind. Oh, good breath, bad breath. Where am I supposed to breathe? Where am I supposed to place my attention? I didn't say. I said, find the place in your own body where you can touch in, feel this sense of aliveness. Feel the release. We're going to be resting here for a moment. And as we do, let's call to mind those we love, those whom we care about, those who are in need. Let them quicken your heart. Let them motivate you for this practice. And then may this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere without exception. This is our aspiration, omitting none, awakening us, and freeing us all. And for this practice, we're going to focus both on the in-breath and the out-breath. I want to give you enough guardrail here. Remember, the breath is simply that, an object upon which to place the mind for stability, for groundedness, for rootedness. I often use just the out-breath as a way of getting completely into the body, but today I want to use both the in and out breath. So see if you can attend to both, giving both equal measure. we're going to practice beginning letting the in-breath be born, feeling into the life of it, catching the beginning, the middle, and the end of the in-breath, the whole life of the in-breath. And then for right now, we're just going to feel into its release. And then, as always, we're going to see if we can't gather ourselves in that space at the end of the breath, intentioning to be most present, most awake for the very next in-breath. We enjoy the in-breath for its uplift, for its inspiration, for its aliveness, for its energy, for its new beginning, its new moment. It's fresh. You can feel the sweetness of the air as you breathe it, to know its freshness. It is not in turning away from these truths either, the truth of becoming, the truth of being, the truth of birth, but completely knowing them, completely inhabiting. And so we're just going to enjoy the in-breath for a few moments. Feeling the in-breath at the front of the body, feeling it at the sides as it expands and lifts, feeling it at the back of the body, a place we often avoid and ignore. Feel how the in-breath affects all these areas. Not only that, but above as it lifts us, and below as it even presses us in just a little bit more. One of my favorite metaphors for the in-breath is liquid life, liquid awareness being poured into an empty vase. See if you can feel that sense. Life being poured into you with each in-breath. You can see by the inspiration of the in-breath that if we don't ground also the in-breath, it can spin out. It can carry us up and off and away into thinking, into that add-on, those narratives, thoughts about the day, thoughts about the in-breath. Be watchful here. See if you can stay directly in contact with the beautiful beginning. How this gift is just completely freely offered to you. The middle and the rise and the filling. See if you can pay attention to the end of the in-breath also. There's a limit doesn't continue. And then we'll begin to let the out breath ground us back. Breathing in, following the in breath, letting it open, expand, fresh and new. And then the transition from the end of the in breath to the beginning of the out breath. Can you feel that release? If we were to continue to just breathe in, we'd explode. We couldn't hold it all. What happens naturally is the re-grounding, the re-centering, drawing us back. Back to the body. Into that release. And now we're going to offer the same keen attention, the same precision as we did to the in-breath, to the out-breath. Catching its slow roll at the beginning of the out-breath. How the breath is being evacuated, expiri, finding its end. See if you can feel the actual release in that out-breath. There is a relief as well. A settling, a stabilizing. A means to know the body in its complete rested state. See if you can continue to allow the expiration of the out-breath coming to rest at its end, complete stillness. Complete open, boundless space. Nothing to have to maneuver, to work for, to imagine, to paste on. No words necessary. We're just resting in awareness at the end of the out-breath. Each breath moment of practice in impermanence, in loss, in change, and also an opportunity to practice grief. We never get this one back. However smooth, however long, however fresh, however beautiful. We have to completely let go at the end of the out breath, letting the breath have its life. And practicing the release. You may begin to notice a little bit of any inequity in your attention. For some of us, we love the in breaths. We love to feel into that newness, that freshness, that arrival. And we struggle with the release. This is just our fear based nature. It's okay. We just acknowledge, but we see if we can't practice letting go. This breath is completely done. It cannot be reborn. Whatever comes next is new. Can we know it completely? Well, the truth is, without completely releasing at the end of the out breath, you cannot. That's the beginning of something we call the add on. It's a narrative that comes from the last breath to the next one. It colors it, it shapes it, it limits it in a way that actually we often don't realize. And so at the end of that out breath, we take that pause, we drop the storylines completely. So that we can be most present, most available, most embodied for the next in breath. No storylines, no ideas, just this one breath. If you're really paying attention, you'll begin to notice that the out breath is as delicious as the in breath. But it requires a softening, an essential letting go that we frequently resist. It is here that we begin to abide change, the essential, continuous nature of change, without resistance, without struggle. Simply as known by this one in and out breath. And then, just for a little bit of extra practice, let's see if we can expand beyond the breath to a particular thought, see if you can recollect something, a moment of difficulty, fairly mild in difficulty, in which you've resisted the realities of change, in which you took a stand against the change of this human reality, this human life. It may not have been so forceful. Again, this resistance often comes, I think, with what I call insidious denial. We just don't see it. We just don't really want to look. It might be the reality, for example, of our own bodies. Things that are weakening or more challenging. Maybe a recent illness. The fears around illness for sure happening. The truth of illness, aging, and death. Just pick one of those moments. I'm going to pick my getting up the stairs, and because of a little hip issue, would be considered mild at this point. I'm going, oh, I'm going to really have to do something about that. And it isn't in the wish to be well, it isn't in the wish to be as healthy as we can be. I've decided that this is a temporary thing, and there's another reality also, which is however temporary it may or may not be. The truth is, this body is aging. I'd just like you to call that kind of moment to mind. It may have been someone you know you can watch as weakening, some other change, maybe something simpler like the change of a job, the change of a relationship, which also are continuous, ever changing. See if we can breathe that stable, steady breath. Turning towards the situation with the in-breath. I'm just imagining getting up those stairs. And with the out-breath, we're seeing if we can't just soften up, working towards not only recognizing now, but accepting the truth of impermanence, the truth of change, the truth of loss. This body is aging. And as we do so, see if we can wake back down into the body and into the breath to see where our holding, our grip, our resistance might be residing. We're staying centered in the breath sensations. We're not trying to force thoughts or just trying to turn towards the experience, holding that image, that visual, that story in the mind, and seeing what happens in the body. This is frequently our resistance revealing itself. I got quite a grip at the upper back. We're not judging this, we're not condemning, we're not expecting an answer to anything. This is not the practice. We're seeing if we can simply be with, bear with, breathe with the truth of this loss and the truth of the natural grief that comes with all loss. We're not pushing it away. We're not transforming it into anything. Can we just feel it? Let it be. And know something about it. And once we get any kind of sensations, it's nice to actually just direct the attention there. I'm just breathing now into that upper back. I'm not trying to change anything, fix it, feel another way at all. I'm just saying, oh, here it is. Stiffen up, brace up, buck up. I've been given some really nice instructions around loss in my life. Square it up, keep going. And I'm going to see if I can just let that storyline, those add-ons fall away so that I can really feel into the truth, into that well of grief that David was talking about. Let it inform me. We keep softening the body, seeing if we can't let that particular sensation translate to the whole rest of the body. I can really feel this kind of stand tall in the face of death, be a warrior. I'm not buying into that. I'm just letting it fall away so I can feel more directly into that sensation. It's kind of falling away into the lower back, right there at the back side of the heart. Watching for any storylines. We don't want to use those. They will actually collapse us. They're all false. See if we can't stay just in the direct experience. Whatever it is or isn't is fine. Letting that whole heart space expand. Remember, forward and back, left and right, above and below. Keeping the heart open as best we can. Can we know grief, the pain of loss directly, and then remember it will not kill us? In fact, as David says, there is a glimmer of coins. The truth is that there is much that it has to offer us. As we turn into the truth of life, life becomes most precious. See if you can avoid any struggling here, struggling to get somewhere else, to feel some other way, even to feel more. Can you just let yourself be, seeing what's true? maybe a complete numbness. It would be good to know. Usually, as we breathe into and towards the truth of change, the truth of loss and death, often people who we have loved, who have died, might come to mind. You're not obligated to work with that. If that just feels like too much, you can just come back into the body. Just feeling the ever present reality of change as known by this breath. Where does grief live within you? What is it that grief has to tell you? Directly through the body. And can we simply train here by continuing to practice opening, opening to the numbness, opening to the backside, the back door of grief, opening to its pinch, its ouch, seeing if we can't cultivate mindfulness or this quality of staying along with a lot of self-compassion, remembering that this is a part of the human experience, cannot be avoided. And remembering our shared humanity, others just like me feel this too. And then, in whatever way you can, for the last few minutes of this practice, can you offer yourself some self compassion or kindness? We, again, just as a reminder, can place our hands around or near our heart space. We can hold our own hearts. We can offer loving, soothing phrases. We can visualize sending down whatever's needed: room, space, light, warmth. A gentle kiss on the forehead, says Tara Brach, or maybe a warm embrace. Can we attend to ourselves in our own grief without pushing it away, without needing to fix anything, without clinging or gripping or fighting to resist? Can we open to the truth? Let it permeate deep into our being, from the skin surface all the way deep into the heart space. We may want to remember or remind ourselves that we are capable of this as we are. It is the heart that turns towards suffering, that turns towards grief, that turns towards pain or loss, that is, of course, the strongest, the most open. And then for the last few moments, just letting go altogether, softening that heart space, softening the body around the heart, just resting in the breath. Feeling that release like the end of a good workout. Grief grows into strength, courage, presence, power, cultivates infinite skills that lead to resilience. Can you feel that? You have been collecting those shiny coins that others have thrown away by their denial, refusal, resistance. We know the truth. It is in the turning towards that we grow stronger, more open, more human, more loving, more compassionate. May we all be well. May we all be free from fear and internal and external afflictions. May we all have ease of being. And may we continue through this very practice of turning towards grief, turning towards change and permanence, and the realities of loss in this life. May we cultivate those qualities of resilience. And may this practice today contribute. Just offering a little gentle movement. Seeing if you can't keep that area of the heart space, both in the front, the sides, and the back, a little bit open. And so we were talking about anger last week. And one of the questions I thought I would ask as a way of potentially weaving these two experiences together is to ask you if you notice any part of your own anger that is, in fact, a resistance, a struggle against, not wanting change, not wanting things as they are, and in fact, I believe carries inherently in it, inherently in anger, an essential aspect of our own grief. I want to see if anybody has any sense of that. Can you think about something that you've been angry about that, in fact, when you looked more closely, investigated more deeply, you could see an avoidance, an aversion, a resistance, a turning away from the truth of pain, from the truth of loss, from the truth of um, death, even. Anybody have any sense of that? Do you know anything about it? If you do, go ahead and write in chat. It's often the easiest way. Of course, yes. A refusal to want to realize imminent loss. Yes. Imminent loss, existing loss, previous loss, often losses that we have been able to, interestingly enough, often with loss that we have been able to hold off for a time. When it finally is coming our way, we can have a lot of anger, a lot of resistance, a lot of why me, a lot of self pity, a lot of rejection. Can you feel the reactivity in it? Like, no. I laughed once when my mother said to me, you know, one of these days you're going to have a hard time getting up those stairs. They're quite steep, and there are 13 of them. And I chuckled. Like, what are you, crazy? We're going to have trouble getting up those stairs. I got the strongest legs in the universe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're still going to do what they do. It's still going to happen in the way it happens. I can't say how it's going to happen. That's a little magical. I can say that it is going to happen in its way, how, in whatever way, time or space, that it does that. And so now I'm not laughing quite so much at my mother, who, by the way, at 85, gets up those stairs pretty damn well. But what do I know? I know what she knows. There will still be a day where that's not the same. And it's actually not the same right now. And my resistance to that idea, what? Get upstairs? What, are you kidding me? Is right here. And when I allow the truth of that in, yes, okay, I can feel the truth of that impermanence, that pain, and the sense of loss that naturally, appropriately, it's not broken, comes with that. I'm going to read this here from Shivam. Yes, was angry about sleep issues. Then in sitting with it, realized I'm deeply sad. Yes. And feeling vulnerable. Yes. About not being able to do anything about it. Feeling vulnerable and helpless is what was underneath. Yes. Thank you, Shivam. Then instead of fighting it, making myself try to do a lot after a sleepless night. Yes. That's the denial. And instead offered myself more love and compassion and space to rest. Beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? This is the practice. We don't like this but how essential and important is it? Shivam, do you want to come on and say any more about that? I really appreciate that teaching from you. Thank you. I can't hear you. I'm hoping someone else can. You're unmuted, so that's okay. You may not have your microphone on. See if you can work on that and come in when you can. I'll continue to read a little bit here, but I really love that. Yes, we all resist change from feeling good and liking, let's use a different word, from liking what it is we like. Annika says, I get angry with people close to me when they are upset. And when I am not upset, I am resisting the pain in my vicinity and blaming it on them. Yes, isn't that a beautiful awareness, Annika? They are stealing my peace. Yes, this is frequently one of our experiences. And there is a deep grief in this. I want the pleasant. I want that which I like. I want the ease. I want the familiar. I want just the pain I know. We even do that. I don't want extra. I'm having enough trouble dealing with the pain I've already got. And we notice the resistance. This is where anger often comes in. And this is how I want to weave these together. Anger is an energy that often, not always, is looking to either one of two things. Invoking change, that was one of the things we talked about with anger as it related to last week. And it also is a dramatic resistor of change, isn't it? No, we're saying, get the bolt the doors, we shut it down, we close it off. And anger is often the first source of that as a protection, isn't it? A protection against what we would then feel, the dis-ease, the not knowing, the uncertainty, the confusion, the not feeling empowered right away. So though I want us to understand well the power of anger, I want us also to be watchful of its shadow side, which is complete resistance to change, complete shutdown, because we don't want to first confront what I think is often required. I know for me that it is true, and Annika, you're speaking to it as well as Shivam, this no, I don't rain on my parade. No, with your pain, your distress, your discomfort, your aging, right? Your illness, your death, or mine, right? And anger can be take its form. What kind of form does anger take here? We don't usually get all like this. What versions of anger do you think are most common in you when you're in rejection, when you're in it's not this fiery Manjushri level of anger. That's often when we are compelled to seek change. But there's this other anger, and I think it has a whole different feel. Joko used to call it the cool couch of anger as it is resisting grief. The cool couch, it's just shut down. It just doesn't care. It's like, no, don't have time for this. It's blaming. It's got a kind of insidious, like, you're just a dope quality in it. It's not fiery. It's cool and kind of passive and almost weak. It's the not showing up, which is the way that I knew this kind of anger, resistance, denial. In college, I had never had anyone that I'd lost, for example, and my college roommate, who I adore, who is one of my dearest friends after these many years, her dad died. I didn't do anything. I just didn't do anything. Didn't go to the service. I don't know if I sent a card. Maybe somebody told me I should, and I did. But the feeling for her was completely void. I had just shut it down in the resistance. This is a type of anger as well, though it's harder to pick up on it. It's got blame in it. It's got just collapse, a little shutdown, quality, like, really, do I have to do this? Maybe I don't. I was just not capable. I had no experience. I had not been trained at all in how to turn towards these things. And so I simply did not have the resources to do so, and can acknowledge and understand that now. I've had plenty of opportunity since then to turn towards death, and really privileged both by working for hospice and by the death of the three, some of the most important men in my life, my grandfather, my father, and my brother, to be with them and have the opportunity to be with them in those moments, those crucibles of change. But it is not only death, is it? We don't want to mistake this as having to thrust ourselves towards death, but also to recognize how we respond, how we shut down, how we disconnect, and to also look at how we do that in very simple ways, as ways of avoiding the truth of change and its pain, right, with these levels of protection. Let me go see what else we have to anger at my teenager for a decision they made, which brought unwanted change. Yes. I have to say, Kelly, that's a beautiful example. Leanne knows it too. I happen to know currently the way we resist change in our teenagers, right? Because they're taking bigger risks, they're making bigger decisions. Everything looks more weighty and consequential. And this is another version, I think, also. Thank you. That's a lovely example of not only our anger, but our grief. No longer my babies, no longer controllable. No longer can I direct them, pick them up from here and put them over there. They're doing all kinds of things, most of which we think is not only insane, but life risking, if not half, most of the time. And there is a deep pain and well of grief also in this. I am losing my children as children, and the pain and grief of that as well. And thank you for naming that so much. That's a really lovely example. There is a deep grief in it as well. Dennis, yes, I feel anger for not truthfully loving myself with an open and truthful heart. Yes, we have not always done this, have we? And has not allowed my son to find his loving and passionate heart. That's right. Out of our judgments, there is also a fear and a pain in that as well. And yes, the consequences of that are significant. But see once again how we can often use anger as a cover, judgments as a cover, fear, right? Just can't even go towards it as a cover from this grief, the truth of change and its pain. And its pain. And we're going to practice this week moving more towards it. Your microphone is still sleeping, Shivam. That's okay. As you said, we get to rest when we need it. I would love to hear from you more on this, by the way, because these are very beautiful, important statements. Thank you. Leanne, not anger, more denial. Well, denial happens to be a form of somewhat consistent energies. Look at its base. I don't want this. And it has an energy in it also. If I do caregiving for my parents, yes, they will be here forever. Yes, we're doing the same, Leanne. We have the same fantasy working in my house. If we get him up every morning, get him in the chair, get him downstairs every night, he's going to last forever. We already have plenty of evidence that's not happening. It's changing in all kinds of small and big ways. That's right. Imminent death. That's right. We're looking at it right here too. Is a death cloud rolling toward me. And when it gets there, it will bring me to my knees. Yes, denial. By the way, it might bring you to your knees. Yeah, it might. It isn't that that's the wrong thing, however. it isn't that that's not exactly the truth of this life. It brings us, doesn't it? If we love, yeah, I think it does. I think it drops us to our knees. And what would it mean if it didn't? What would it mean about love? What would it mean about life? What would it mean about these relationships if it didn't completely alter you in some immutable way? Right? And this is the other part about grief that we're going to look at next week, which is this deep within the well of grief, that shiny coin that David was talking about is not only that which others have thrown in, it is the truth of love. That there really is something in our loving that has us wail at the wall of loss appropriately, essentially. And can we let it take us? Can we let it have us? And in the small ways that we are right now, just like going, right? Yeah, I'm not going to be able to avoid this. So, how do I prepare, practice, train, and open to it? Because I believe that deep within the grief is infinite, boundless love. And I happen to know, because I have lost a parent who I adored, that the other side of that grief is that forever and ever felt sense of love. And we'll talk about it some more. Sarcasm. Yes, thank you, Denise. Yeah, isn't it true? Another form of aggression and another form of avoidance for that which we are often fearful of and threatened by. Some kind of pain is in evidence. And sarcasm is a very insidious form of that, and often one I struggle with, not because I am sarcastic, because I have a problem with it. It's like, say what you mean, but it has a passivity, it has an hostility in the realities of change and vulnerability. I remember at a funeral, someone saying, in that sarcastic tone, well, we do know there's going to be a lot of drinking anyway, at the death of someone who was from Irish tradition. And I remember feeling like wow, like here we are in the midst of this pain and this entire family. It was a very unexpected loss and very excruciating. This was a major member of this family, and this person just smirking in the background. And I thought, may I never get that defended. May I never be that defended. By the way, I have been, so oh well for that idea. But may I never cover that much. And yes, then I have, but I've been open to seeing it, and then open, hopefully, to calling it what it is, which is my own pain and my own fear, instead of judging, condemning, and becoming harsh or smarmy with another. Critical resentments, yes, other faces of this. Emotional, yes. And don't we get to be? Don't we get to be in the face of this pain? Covert, yes, it shows itself externally, internally, in both. Short, don't listen, shut down to them very much, turning away. The cool anger of righteousness, yeah, this is a favorite of mine, Greg. Yeah, I can go, I've got it going on because I'm heading towards it, not those guys. They're walking away. That has, I've been altered by that, because that judgment, that righteousness has caused harm. And sometimes we have to see it in order to catch it. To not walk away, but to be still, yes, and listen with an open heart. Big, big practice. We're going to start in small ways. this week. And if that's not enough to take the pressure off, back up what is requiring my response, then an explosion. Yes, this is what often happens. We can, in our righteousness, in our, I've got it, I've got the truthness, or you're taking something from me, and our fear and pain about that, we can often strike out. Yes, there's the question. Resist the natural transitions. Yes, we do in every way possible. Grandkids growing up, us getting older, teenagers becoming adults, and not necessarily with the brain equipment you wish they had. Like, oh my God, how did we all live through that? But they do for the most part. And sometimes they don't. And that's also what we're afraid of, isn't it? Yeah, because this life, it is also precious and sometimes fragile. After feeling the grief, then can be more open to change. Did you notice anybody? Like, okay, here we are. The hands go up. We open rather than shut down. I think we do as we rest in the truth of change, as we rest in the truth of impermanence, beginning with ourselves, our own breath, our own self-image, our own, right? Can it always look a certain way? No, I don't care what kind of cream you got on there. Can it always be a certain way? No, it can't. And can we notice the pain? I really want us to touch into that rather than just getting trapped in the smoke of the anger and fire. I want us to get down this week and wake down into what is the pain here? What is the pain here? That's going to be the first question. Can somebody write that for me? In a moment of reactivity, a moment of anger, a moment of upset, a moment of distress, what is the pain and loss here? The second question I have is the one we're going to talk about some more next week, but we're going to go look at the chapter quickly, is what is it I love that I am afraid of losing? What is it that I love, actually, that I'm afraid of losing? Okay, those are the two key questions. Can somebody write those down for me so that we can capture those? These are the essential questions. And can we then rest for a few breaths, letting it in, breathing it in, letting it transmute us as it does and will, as Leslie says? Can I open to this without resistance, without the push and reject, without the shutdown? Can I open to the truth of change, of loss, of pain, of death, and make contact with what it is I really love? And then when we can remember, there's a beautiful surprise at the end of that. There is a beautiful surprise at the end. But we have to answer, what is it I truly love? And I'm not going to give it away. Let us figure it out together. Shiva, my sister uses joking to lots of people to avoid grief and pain with others and herself. And it's always so tone deaf and grating and doesn't work. Yes, it doesn't. Can you know her pain? Can you know her fear? Can you know that for her as the very insufficient guard of protection against something none of us can protect ourselves from? And feel for her and feel for you, because however it is you're feeling about it, Shiva, what I know is that's exactly how she's feeling. She's probably just as disgusted with the whole, just like, really, I couldn't one time just be still with it. Yeah, actually. But I would want us to feel for her in that her own fear, in her own avoidance, because the consequences, as we know from the poem in our own life, are what? They're very profound. They're very profound. It's as if you have all co-written. Yes, isn't it beautiful? Annika, that is so true. That is a poem right there. What everyone's writing is absolutely stunning. Can we see our anger, its source, its nature, and use the energy to take action for the benefit of ourselves and others? The answer is yes. This is the transmutation, the turning the poison into the good medicine, but not first. But not first. First, we have to feel the truth of the pain. We have to feel the truth of the fear. We can't get out of the direct experience first. So we cannot just transmute, though it is in fact the way. We have to let it really reach in and touch us cell by cell, every part. This is the wailing at the wall. You're right. You are being transformed because you're letting it in. And then there is this beautiful thing that I'm saying, there is a secret at its end. There is a gold coin at its end, but we can't get to it without first being open, receptive, abiding, still in the face of that pain and that fear. And I don't mean still just sitting quietly. I think we're beating the ground, as someone said at the beginning. I think it drops us smack to our knees. It did to me. It did it right at Quest Haven. I don't know if some of you remember a time after my brother had died, and I was handling it so well. I have no idea what that means, except it wasn't true. And we were at a retreat in Quest Haven, a lot of stillness and silence. And I walked through the pines in the pine grove there, and I could smell my brother and see his face. And when I did, it literally knocked me to the ground, straight to the ground. And I was supposed to ring the bell. And we were supposed to go. I didn't ring the bell, and nobody came and got me. Did they? Somehow we all knew this is a part of what has to happen. Right? This is the truth of it. And it is right. It is right that it happened. There's not something broken here. This is it. And I let it knock me to my knees, and I stayed down. I didn't jump up. A very important teaching and moment. And we're all going to have them in our way if we open, if we're willing to open. And then that thing that Greg says, the realities of boundless love, infinite love, love that does not die, is born. But we have to be willing to go through the crucible to get to it. The heat of anger and the well of grief, both required. I finally felt and sat with the grief of leaving San Diego, moving to North Carolina, and really missing my friends. Wow, I had no idea this would be so painful and sad, that missing of close friends. Of course, if they're truly friends, how could we not miss them? Again, isn't this the truth of love? How could you not miss them? And if you didn't, were they friends? No, right? This is it. It tears us open, grows us bigger, and is painful. And we don't have to try to pretend like it isn't. In a moment of reactivity, what is the pain and loss here? Yes, thank you. What is it that I love that I'm afraid of losing in this moment of reactivity, whatever that is? Can I open to this without resistance, to the truth of change, and make contact with what I truly love? Breathe it in and stay with it. Those are the chapter questions. Thank you. But the cracks are the places where the light shines through. It is exactly accurate. So this was the way that I wanted to kind of bring chapters 3 and 4 together. I don't want to separating these, anger over here, grief over there. No, they're related, they're interconnected. They are very much woven into the one heart of us. I want you to look deeper now than just the anger, which is not a standalone emotion ever, ever, ever. It always has some resistance, some not wanting, some aversion, some not liking. And we already know our most not liking is right here: loss, pain, change, and grief. And I want us to open, breathe into it a little, see if we can't drop in. We're going to use that beautiful energy of anger. It's there, available to us, but I don't want us to use it as an armor. I don't want us to use it as a pushing away, rejecting the other, rejecting the experience, and rejecting the truth of our own experience. The pain of this, the ache of this, the longing of this, the sadness of this. This is the truth of our lives, and we can only grow really spiritually, relationally, and interpersonally ourselves as we open to the truth of how we really are. Be watchful of this. If I could just get it to be some other way, then I could be okay. No, you can't. We have an entire culture that denies death, denies aging, denies change, an entire culture. We had an entire political, right? An entire years built on what? Getting back. No change, getting back to the America that was, getting back to how great it all was, getting right. And the impossibility of that. There is no going back. There is the being here fully, completely, openly, and the going forward with the truth of it. And so let's practice with that for the last few moments. Yes, under anger, there is always a series of other experiences. The one I want us to look for is first, resistance to change, and the second, the pain that comes with all change, all loss, and its grief, that which we have run from for too long and can no longer if we hope to be present on this path called our human life. Let's sit together for just another moment. Next week, we will be exploring chapter 4, Grief. Please read it. It's a beautiful chapter. Lovely, lovely chapter. You will enjoy it as I did. She talks about grief to resilience. I just want us to stay right here. Can we make contact with the truth of grief in our life every day? Every day, in the out breath, in the transitions, in the change. Let's see if we can cultivate sufficient courage, patience, a lot of mercy, a lot of grace, so that we can abide it. So let's gather ourselves here, just taking a moment to invite the attention right here back to this body that's sitting. Breathe in and breathe out. We don't have to change anything. That ache in your heart is supposed to be there. That's a part of what it's there for, so that we can remember the beauty of love, the beauty of loss, the inevitability, and the challenge that comes with change and loss. We don't have to fix a thing. Can we open in all sides, the front, the back, the sides, above and below? Breathe into the heart space and see if you can open it in all directions. We're a little bit clever here We tend to keep one section or another closed. See if you can see where that is. As we breathe in, looking for the 10 directions, to let the truth of this human life in. The inspiration and the pain of this human life. May we know it completely. May we open ourselves in each moment both to its goodness, to its blessing, and to its end. Let it be true. It will point the way to that which you love. May we all be happy. May we all be safe and free from harm. May we all have ease of being. May we dedicate the merits, the blessings, and the benefits of this practice today and all practice throughout all time to the end of suffering and the realization of true happiness, freedom, and love. And may this practice today contribute. So be it. So be it through you. All right, folks, let's practice this week. Thank you for writing those questions. I very much appreciate that. I will be posting, following Leslie's posting of this video, I'll be posting the notes and the poem. It will be made available to you there. Let's see if we can't take those opportunities throughout the day to touch into the endings, to touch into the thing that's in transition, in change. We love that in-breath. See if we can stay present to what is completing, what is finishing, what is ending, and remembering that which we love within it. That will, I think, be a support to us as we turn towards the blade of loss, of change and grief. And we'll review the chapter 4 next week together. I'll look forward to being with you then. Thank you all so much. Such a lovely, truly, poetry from each of you as we look at this challenging topic together. Blessings and love to you all. May you have a joy-filled and fearless day. Be well, everyone.